that shot from Yorkshire, and you've talked about him playing as a power forward. Is that the type of play that he needs to make?
No, when I'm speaking of power forward, I'm not speaking of that. I'm speaking of a guy that's going to carry some people on his back, take the puck out of the corner, beat someone one-on-one, bring pucks to the net. That's just a hockey play to me. It's something we talk about all the time, is just going to the net. But Luke has the ability to just beat people and beat people out of corners one-on-one with the puck. That's more of a power forward.
Okay. How has he improved just in that area this season?
It's been a little inconsistent, quite honestly. He has such a high standard that I think we need to hold him to, because I think he has the ability to do that stuff. It's something that we're always talking about, is trying to stay consistent with it. So, he has a chance to be a great player. It's our job as coaches, and as we go through it, to make sure he's staying on top of himself to become that.
And you were pleased with your 2 games before Sunday. Do you feel like you found yourself a little bit Sunday in the way you guys played?
Against the Rangers?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we played better defensively. It was kind of a funny game. I think we looked, I hate using the word tired, but we just didn't look sharp. I thought we got going. I don't think either team was sharp, as far as energy especially. But we hold them to 13 scoring chances. I thought it was a team that they've got some firepower, and they can score some goals, and they have scored goals. I thought we did a pretty good job defending. I answered some of your questions after the game. I guess we must have sucked compared to some of you guys as the questions were concerned, but I didn't mind our game at all.
Is there anything more gratifying as a coach? I know you've won championships, you've been to some pretty great things, but to see Kim Lennox get his first win, to see Eric Robinson sort of start to establish himself, to see some of these guys that haven't really
that's what you're.
to start getting things.
That's the most enjoyable part of coaching, is when you're developing people and you're pushing and you're tugging and you're kicking and you're hugging and you're doing all the things trying to help people to perform, to see them start getting it and start feeling good about themselves and start making those type of plays. I was thrilled for our goalie. Maddie, that's a tough spot going into Madison Square. They've got some good shooters, some good players. I was thrilled for him because I was just so impressed how he handled it. He didn't look nervous. I know he was, but he didn't look it. He just looked solid, and so that high marks for him. I was really happy for him.
When did you decide he was someone other than Elvis was going to start that game, and then it would be him? Was it after Saturday's game, or was it?
I don't even remember. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff. As I said, no hindsight as far as goalies, because then you keep asking me about goalies. You just open Pandora's box. If I start answering questions about goalies, then there's more goalie questions, and I'm not going to answer goalie questions.
Can I ask you this goalie question? What have you learned about Elvis since he's become the main starter?
Well, I think Elvis has progressed. There has been an adjustment that he's had to go through as far as just coming over and playing in the smaller rinks and everything about preparation and NHL shooters, all the stuff that comes with it. I think it's been a good progression for him. I'm not going to be yaying all the time, Elvis has arrived. There's so much more hockey to be played, and he has so much more to learn. You guys can ride with the Elvis story and all the stuff that comes with it. He just needs to go about his business one day at a time, and that's the way we're going to approach him.
Any message you'll leave the team with after Wednesday night to ponder perhaps over the break?
No, I haven't even thought about it, because Wednesday night is Wednesday night. Tomorrow was the game.
Has this been an enjoyable season for you as a coach?
You're asking questions like it's the end of the year.
No,
See, what happens is we win a few games and you think we have all the answers. We don't have all the answers.
But you guys went through some struggles early, and then you came
Yeah, you
back
do it every
from
year.
those. Right.
This is no year different than any other. Every year brings different problems. The past couple of years, it has been 2 interesting years. Last year had its own situations. This year, no one expected the onslaught of missing some bodies, but we don't get too worried about it. We just go about our business and go about it. So, yeah, you guys are beginning to worry me here a little bit because you have a little bit of a run. We got 30-plus games to play. We're going to try to take it one day at a time and go about our business that way.
I guess what I'm getting at is more, at least here in your coaching term, you've had a lot of young guys that you've had to coach. You've actually had to coach and help get better. I mean, has that been an enjoyable experience, just in general, big picture?
Well, the teaching part of it, whether it be
Right.
old or young, is the most enjoyable part for me. I think it brings in challenges, it brings in conflict, it brings in relationships. It does a lot of different things as you go through it. But we are guidance counselors, and that's the greatest thing about coaching is just the process you're going through with each individual player, and then trying to get those individual players to mesh as a team. And it's hard. It's hard, and holding people accountable while you're doing it's hard. But it's enjoyable. I like the group. I've been very fortunate the years I've been here. We've had some good groups here, and this is no different than any other.
So where do you have a Sonny? And who did he skate?
Sonny has a personal situation. He's not here, so he has a personal situation. Sonny's out of the lineup. Really not totally due to his play. I thought his last 2 or 3 games there was a little bit of a struggle. I thought he dipped. And then I had to start making some decisions when other guys came in, I'm not crazy about taking out his skill, but I also have to measure that versus chemistry within lines, especially within the Nash line. I think that changes some of my decision making. As you see, I've changed the lines around anyway. I even moved away from Nash's line. I've come back to it. So there's a lot of different things it comes into play with him being out. I don't want to keep him out a lot longer because I think he's given us some good minutes. I don't want to lose him because I think he's really tried defensively, but that's where we're at right now. He's the odd man out.
Leah scored a goal a couple games ago. What's keeping him in the lineup? What do you like about him?
Well, Lils is his whole foundation is he's so consistent as far as being above the puck, good on the walls, block shots. He's done a lot of that to kind of in this run here with a lot of different bodies becoming a team. I think he's a glue guy, and I think that has given us an opportunity to compete here the last little while. Is that we're kind of glued. And that's an important thing to keep on trying to stay together. And you as a coach, you coach teams differently along the way. I coached the team differently last year because we had a whole different makeup. We were kind of running and gunning a little bit, and you have to. Yeah, you got to look at your personnel, see what's the best way to be successful. When we've had some of the injuries, we've kind of glued it together and really bonded on the other side of the puck. And being stingy that way, I don't want to take that away right now in our team, and I think he's a big part of that.
Do you feel like Seth Jones recently, the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, has really kind of gotten
Played better.
Yeah. Is he close to the level that you want him at?
Well, I think Jonesy can improve. I think Jonesy's so young; he's still going to improve even more. We talk about Luke. I have a high standard for Luke. I have a very high standard for Jonesy. I think he's played really well. But you don't stop trying to get better, and I think there's more there.
It's a kind of a compliment to him, to where you've said a couple of times that he got off to a little bit of a slow start for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that a slow start for him is probably something that a lot of other guys would strive to have, right?
Yeah, but it is what you can bring. What is the standard? What is the expectation of that player? That's my job, is to try to get players to a standard as high as you can get, and maybe even more, and see if they can keep on going. I think that's what accountability is, and accountability belongs with everybody, whether it be considered a star player or a fourth line guy. So we try to work on that every day.
John, you talk about coaching differently. How flexible have you had to be through the comings and goings this season? How much have you had to maybe change a little bit? Coach one way, depending upon the group you have, and another way on the next group you have?
We've been pretty consistent on how we've defined how we've had to play, and I talked to you guys about that at the beginning of the year. With the departures, we knew we were going to have to be better, away from the puck and have a concentration away from the puck, especially with 2 goalies coming into play here. We haven't changed our thinking there. So, and I think the lesson that has come about here in the last little while is, team concept and hunger and belief versus, you have a little bit of stature, and I think some entitlement comes into play.
Yeah.
That's what you're weighing here. It's a great lesson for our organization. Great lessons for individual players that have stature and a little bit of entitlement versus what this team is going about right now as far as just guys just hanging on here, doing everything they can to stay here and help this team win, thinking of the team. I'm not saying that the entitlement is part of it. It depends what type of entitlement you're talking about. And I think it's a good lesson for all our players that are kind of in that category there, that have done some good things for the organization and sometimes expect someone coming their way when maybe you're just not pushing hard enough. I think it's a great lesson. That's the coolest thing about what's going on with this club right now.
Predicated by personnel, depending upon who's in.
Definitely the personnel has when you have personnel come up with 6 or 7 guys coming from a minor league team and seeing an opportunity and saying, man, I got a chance here to show what I can do and maybe stick. You have a different mindset from a guy that's been here and scored a bunch of goals or did whatever he's done. Sometimes you lose a little bit of that edge. I think this kind of defines how you can get some business done. And the most important thing is playing as a team. Because sometimes when you just lose a little bit of edge, you forget about team concept and you think a little bit too much about yourself. And for me too, it brings you back. It brings you back to really how this game is supposed to be played.
John, are there guys who are impressing you off the ice, maybe growing in their leadership abilities with this team this year?
I think our leaders are growing. I think all of them are. I still think I have a pretty high standard as far as that's concerned, as far as how you have to handle yourself. I think it's just, I look at leadership as far as amongst players a little bit differently than what I think is thought about now in sports, in all sports. I think there should be more of a push amongst the players themselves. I still don't see enough of that in basically being on top of a guy when you need to be on top of him. I don't think athletes, teammates like doing that to one another, and that's the coach's responsibility, I guess, if it isn't done. But it's changed. Back in the day, you grab a guy by the scruff of the neck, and if he's not doing his work, you grab him in the locker room, and you can't do that now. That would be headlines. I just don't believe. I believe that's still a big part of leadership. I just don't, Allison. I don't think you're fair as a teammate to teammate if you're not honest with your teammate, because it might get a little bit of conflict and it gets a little sticky. I don't think you're being fair to your teammate because you're not telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should tell the players. I think they always should be truthful with one another, good and bad. The bad, I don't think it happens a whole bunch.
Are there new voices, though, joining that leadership group, other than the guys who wear the letters that you're seeing? Not that there have to be, but...
Well, I look at, and do I put leader on him or not? I look at what Gerbs has brought us here, just the way he carries himself, just the way he plays. I think that helps the glue of the team and how you're supposed to play the game. But as far as guys, see, I'm not there. When I'm there, and doing some of that stuff. But I think we're growing. I think we've grown through this situation here. And I do think, because I hear it on the bench, I hear different talk about as a team, I think they understand that we can be successful, even though you don't have an all-star lineup. It's a very important thing for this team and organization to see you can get some things accomplished. Now you got to stay with it here, and so that's why we got to keep on approaching this each day at a time, because it could change very quickly.
Got by without Anderson and Bjorkstrand and those guys to do more of the scoring, of course. How impressed have you been at your ability to sort of keep the forechecking up, keep your heart skating out without Josh Anderson, who's such a difference maker, such a player today?
Yeah, it's. I think it's one of the things as we try to play. We talk about it a lot as far as our forechecking and our shot blocking and stuff like that. I think that gets that mindset into the belief of how you're supposed to play the game. I think guys are just trying to take it upon themselves because we don't. We don't take their sticks out of their hands, but we want to try to get as many opportunities to forecheck as we can because I just think it helps the bench. I think it helps how we have to play, and it gets your legs moving. I think when we have struggled, we've kind of watched teams play. I think if you're advancing the puck and moving the puck and not so much tape to tape all the time and trying to get into a forechecking mode, I think it helps everything about it, and it does. It helps. It helps who we are. It helps the definition of who we are.
How do you play without Josh? How have you been able to sort of survive without?
Well, I don't think Josh has had some struggles, obviously. I thought he was coming on. I thought he was playing better. I don't think he was rewarded as far as points are concerned, but I thought he was playing better. But, you know, we've done okay here. And, you know, for a young man like him, seeing what's going on here, as Cam has done, and I think Borky does the first game, you got to join in when you come back. We certainly, I mean, he's a big piece to the puzzle for us here, and he's going to go back in when he's ready, but join in, and that's the good thing here. I think it forces people to join in, and not kind of go at what you're going to be doing. It's a team thing, and this is a team sport.
John, with Gerby, you mentioned him earlier. When guys usually reach that point of their career, you know, there's not a spot for them in the NHL. They go to Europe. We don't see them coming back from Europe into the NHL very often. Here he is, though. How's he been able to do that, and how impressive is that?
Energy. He has been that way his whole career. Understands what it is to prepare. He's just. You know, I've coached, I guess, some smaller guys in height and weight, which I really don't measure. You know, I've coached Cam here. I've coached a guy out in Tampa there in Martin St. Louis, where people said no to him a number of times. And Gerbs is in that same type of mold, and to me, it's a mental thing. And talking about mental things, is that I'll show you. And you know, when I was coaching St. Louis, it was every day. It was an I show you attitude every day, even when he was cleaning up the league and winning a Stanley. It was every day he was going to show people. Gerbs has that same attitude. Cam does too. Sometimes I got to prod Cam to do every day, but those guys that play in that type of situation, they just have a mental toughness about them.